Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome to episode 6 of the QCast. We are so excited for you guys to be here today. Kind of a chill episode today. It's just me, Hunter, and Brady. But I guess to start out, why don't you guys go head over to juggernautenergy.com or follow them on Twitter at Juggernaut. And while you're at checkout, use the code QCast in all capitals, QCAST, for your lovely 10% off. Again, as you see on the screen here, use code QCast, QCAST in all caps for 10% off your order at juggernautenergy.com. So today on the QCast, we really aren't gonna say. We don't really have a subject in tone today. So we're just gonna converse. We're just gonna see how everything's going, and maybe grab some questions from the chat and Twitch. But if you're watching the recording on YouTube, comment down below what questions you want us to address. We would love to touch on that stuff. But let's get started. Might as well, huh? So, guys, you can unmute your mics.
Woo, what's up? What's up, guys?
How are you guys doing today?
Awesome now.
Bro, Mondays are the best.
I just made some spaghetti with some... Never mind.
So I kind of just told everyone that we're kind of just gonna have a chill podcast, just converse a little bit. We don't really have anyone special on today, so we're just gonna talk about some things that maybe are in the works, maybe what we were working on yesterday. Maybe we can talk about. Whatever you guys really want to talk about. Let's just.
Hong Kong.
Ooh.
Let's get in. Let's dive.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm not even going to cut it short with this. It's something that I am not even that passionate about. I just think it's awesome. Not awesome. But I think that what's going on over there is like literally something from Black Mirror. What do you guys know about Hong Kong?
Basically, I actually don't know too much other than something about their, the social credit system that they have going on there. I know I've seen riots where police are literally maiming people, beating them and shooting people, and there's basically a civil war between the people and the government going on to an extent. But that's the gist of it. So I'm actually excited to learn a little bit from you.
I saw a fucking video today where they were all out in the streets, and a cop straight up shot a kid in the chest.
I think I thought
that was
the same video. Yep.
That is literally going to be a turning point in society.
I feel like that video itself, that's literally gonna be what they came from, and then now when they get change after this, they're gonna leverage the fuck out of that video.
Well, here, before I dive in, I need to get a laptop charger because Ron took it and my thing's about to die. Be right back.
Okay, well,
sorry.
while he is off being irresponsible and not prepared, we're gonna inform you guys. As you see down in that corner of our screen, the overlay has our Instagram there, and our Twitter will also be updated with this. But on our Instagram, Quantum Creations FX, we recently have we're coming out with content. We have a little system with us. We want to keep people engaged. If you missed the podcast, if you really did miss the podcast, and you want essential parts of the past podcast, bang, you will find clips of our past podcasts on there. Especially if we have guests. We released a clip with Jordan Savage in it today, and that is a straight nugget about crypto. If you're interested in crypto, go to that Instagram page and look at and listen to what that man has to offer right there. Okay, shameless plug for our socials down there. Make sure they're all down there. The YouTube's down there. Also, I haven't updated this overlay, Mr. Irresponsible as well, but you see down in this corner we have the Trade House logo, and we will be having the Juggernaut Energy logo. I just noticed that that's not in there. We're kind of slacking on that. I gotta get some.
We're getting better.
So, dude, so much has just been happening. Everything's been going on that it's been grinding on other business activities, and just haven't been putting those like fine details into the podcast. But we're making it happen. We're making it happen.
It all comes with time, for sure.
All right, Bunty. I mean, it's your floor right now, man. You brought up the topic. You go in.
And if anyone has any more information on it, also please let me know. Reach out or just put it in the comments. If anyone knows about it, put it in the comments or reach out, because this is something that I'm interested in. I don't talk about it all the time. I don't post it a lot on my story or anything, but I really have taken kind of this random, like I've just kind of gravitated towards it because it's so wild. It's like, why is this not something that we're like, I could say that about so many things, but realistically, I don't know if you guys know about, Hong Kong and how it's separate from China.
For the 18th straight weekend, protesters are hitting the streets of Hong Kong, and
started
there are no
peacefully protesting. Now, keep in mind that Hong Kong is kind of like a communist place, so they don't have guns. They have a social credit system. So we've seen that episode in Black Mirror where people basically have a social credit system and it's based off whatever scale. In Hong Kong, it's a scale of 1 to 10. And with your social credit system, it literally goes, you could lose your social credit system simply because your dog pooped in a yard and you didn't pick it up. Like, it's crazy. So there's this peaceful protest because people were getting, the Chinese government, Hong Kong government were in negotiation with extraditing criminals from China into Hong Kong. So basically bringing people that weren't part of Hong Kong into Hong Kong that are all criminals, drug traffickers, whatever, and kind of like putting them in that place. And essentially, now this is where it gets like a little butchery for me. Like, I don't want to fuck this up, but it's kind of like the idea of opening up a border and allowing more free flow of people getting into Hong Kong, because Hong Kong and China are separate. So there's a peaceful protest for it, and then what happened is the Chinese government, they started putting out police and stuff, and then it started getting a little violent because the police, it's a communist place. What happens in communist countries? I mean, so the police, and no one has guns, so they started, shining lasers at the social credit cameras, because what would happen is if you showed up to the protest, your social credit score went to shit. Like, they just tanked it. And now a lot of people are at that protest. Now, what happens when your social credit score tanks? You can't do anything. So, like, let's say, hey, I don't really like how Hong Kong is right now. I'm getting tired of going to these stupid protests. Everything in Hong Kong is messed up. I'm going to try and buy a flight and get out of here. If you have a really bad social credit score, you can't, they're even trying to censor the internet with it. If you have a social credit, they're trying to like completely get rid or censor the entire internet in China, and specifically in Hong Kong, because that's how they're doing these rallies. That's how they're meeting up with each other. They're using social media platforms. And now they're using like social credit score, or the social credit system is making it so that people literally can't leave Hong Kong. So they're basically stuck there. And now when Jared said that there's a guy who got shot in the chest, that's huge. Because I don't know if you guys paid attention to what's happening in Venezuela as well, but they got their guns taken away X amount of years ago. And everyone is like, Bernie Sanders just praising it like this is the best thing that, Venezuela could possibly do. This is so smart, yada, yada, yada. Rewind a couple months ago, people are getting ran over by tanks. People are getting the shit kicked out of them. Dude, it's so bad in Venezuela. Same with Hong Kong. People are getting the crap. Like, you'll just see videos of people just getting pulled and just beaten and beaten and beaten. And that's, I'm not going to get political here, but that's why, these gun laws are getting, like, realistically, gun laws are, say what you want about them. I agree with some arguments. I don't agree with some, but that is one reason why I do believe in gun rights. Because if the government could totally, completely turn on you, they have already, and I'm not trying to scare people here, but Marines have been deployed in America in the case of an act of, I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's to protect civil authorities. Now, I'm not even going to touch that rabbit hole right now, because this podcast would be 5, 6, 7, 5 days long, because there's a lot of information behind why they decided to deploy and have Army reserves ready at the go in our homeland. So for me, I look at what's happening in Hong Kong. I look at the social credit score. I look at the, the way that the government treats their people. I look at all this stuff that's happening, and I just look at America, and I'm just like, all right, guys, we got some really bad shit going on here. But there's even worse shit going on there. Now, what's our common theme here? It's the people versus the government. Bottom line, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but for me, if we're putting our life in the hands of the government, we're going to be fucked. Bottom line. I think that we can all agree upon that, but that's also what is happening. People are pushing for the government to have more and more control. Once the government gets a little lick of control, we're screwed. Because they don't care. Look at the education system. What happens? I don't need to go on a long rant about this. I think you guys are getting the point, and I'd like some insight too from Jared and Brady. But for me, I just don't see the government is not, the original reason for the government was to, protect the people, have laws and regulations and whatnot. That's fine. I'm not saying everyone in the government's fucked. But I do believe that if we give them too much power, it goes straight to their heads. Because they're power hungry. That's why they're in power. And to me, you look at, the wide history of how our government has been ran and all the things that are happening right now. Doesn't even matter what side of the spectrum you are on, left, right, conservative, liberal. Government's messed up right now for millions and millions of reasons. So it's just kind of crazy to me when I see all these things that are happening in America, and it's just like people are wanting what China is, not completely, not what communist China is, but people are kind of starting to gravitate towards the similar ideas that Hong Kong and China represent and that they have in their country. And then I look at what's happening there, and I'm just like, are you guys not seeing that you give the government any type of control, they're going to screw you over the second they can? Why do you think cryptocurrency was invented? To take the money away from the government and give it back to the people. Because the government can't be trusted. How many things are they going to lie about until we got to start realizing, wow, they really hate us. We're really just dollar signs. We're just numbers. What's your social security card? Just numbers. What are you? It's your employee number. Sorry. I'm not going to get into a rabbit hole again, guys, but that's kind of like a real quick, recap of what's going on in Hong Kong and how that could potentially, how that's something that we should learn from, learn from people's mistakes, because it's not pretty. The way things are going right now, shit, a little scary.
I just don't get how I don't know, why, I don't know how to phrase this, but I know there's obviously has to be change, but I don't know why.
How do we change it?
No, I don't know why. Actually, I'm just gonna drop it because I just don't know how to frame it. I don't know how to say it.
Do you want to know why we're in the position that we're in? Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm talking about I want to touch on the more brutal force that their government and law enforcement is installing on the people protesting.
Yeah, dude, I that's one thing. That's why I haven't looked into it enough to know exactly why they started doing that shit.
Well, yeah.
I don't know what event triggered them to start getting crazy.
Like a peaceful protest is one thing, but obviously law enforcement is gonna retaliate when people are fucking throwing shit, that's obviously one side, but then again you can't bring guns when it isn't a gunfight.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree with that. No problem with peaceful protest, but it's when the government starts trying to control you and makes it they start turning on you, they start sending armed people in and trying to control these large groups of people. And for me, it's just a matter of there's a level of protection that you have to have for yourself. Every human being has the innate we're, in a primal sense, we started from spear and wool clothes. We have that primal instinct inside us. So I think every single human being is entitled to have some type of protection to protect themselves from an enemy or a predator. So a predator could be a police officer that's in full armor, that's running at you with a baton to kick the shit out of you. simply because you showed up to a simple, peaceful protest. And now we can go even farther in depth into that and look at it as, let's do a hypothetical here. Let's say that we find out that, you know, there's some really disgusting deep state stuff going on in the government. And, you know, everyone's going to be pretty fucking wild about it. You know, the information that they find out really, 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 really pisses them off. So then they start, you know, going out and protesting and stuff. And because rightfully so, the people who are in power making our laws are doing some devious, disgusting shit and passing laws in order for them to continue doing that stuff, completely affecting your life, directly affecting your life, and going out propaganda, doing all this crazy shit. And then you go out, you're pissed off about it. And then they're like, oh, well, we got to do something. We got to control these people. Send out the military, send out these people. There's literally going to be riots in this. This is hypothetical, by the way. This is not a possibility. But they start sending Marines to all these cities. They start, oh, hey, look, you know why Walmart is so big? Let's see. We could fit a lot of people in there. All these people are getting so crazy. Let's start taking these large masses of people, arresting them, and putting them in. Now, I'm getting real crazy with this. Yeah, but this is, you know, in a hypothetical world, it's a possibility. There's infinite realities. So you see any movie, you have to protect yourself. I'm not going to protect myself with an umbrella or a fucking knife or some shit when I have military people coming in with fucking guns. The only way to protect myself or even stand a fight is with a gun. Now, and I think me and Brady talked about this the other day, is the fact that we want to buy a firearm just in case. You never know. It's really good to have that protection because you won't be harmed if you even out the fight if you have a weapon on you. Or if you have a weapon, like someone breaks into your house. You have the ability and you have a gun nearby. You just protected yourself. You just protected your house. Now let's say that other person has a gun. Sure, then it's a level playing field. It's whoever has a quicker trigger finger. But someone breaks into my house, they have a gun. I don't. I'm fucked. I'm their slave. They have so much more power over me. The gun brings the peace of mind. The gun brings the protection. And it protects you from, you know, there are a lot of things that are happening right now that the government is forcing upon us that we can't do shit on. Let's go even crazier, and may piss some people off. Vaccinations. I could go crazy on that, but I'm not going to. But when the government is making it mandatory, like in California, for you to get a flu shot, and now you see all these different stories of people, there's literally a vaccine injury compensation plan. When you take a vaccine, you get compensated for the injury, and you have an injury, you get compensated for it. Now, I'm not even going to get crazier into the other side effects of vaccines, but if you really want to, I suggest stop listening to the people on Twitter telling you to vax your kids and actually do some individual research and find out what's in these vaccinations, find out why they're making us take 50 fucking vaccinations before we're even 4 weeks into our life, when most countries wait 18 weeks to even put a needle into their kid. In America, dude, things are getting real crazy. And that's why I think that people need to become informed so that they can protect themselves. What happens when a cop pulls you over and you know your rights? They don't even bother with you because they know that they're not going to get an edge on you. There's so many loopholes and stuff that you can go through. There are cracks in the system, and it's up to you because I can be spewing out all this shit and you can disagree with it all you want. Please, I really want someone to prove me wrong. Like all the stuff that I post on my story, all the shit that I look into, there's so much evidence proving that it's true that I'm led to believe that it is until I'm proven wrong. I can ask Brady. I am really good at at admitting when I'm wrong. I don't want to be spewing out bullshit. I want to know the truth. It's called truth seeking for a reason. I'm not doing this to sound like I'm smart or anything. I'm doing this because it genuinely interests me. And I think that people go wrong when they look at, oh, well, Twitter's telling me to vaccinate everyone, which I don't have a problem with all vaccinations. I have a problem with a lot of specific mandatory vaccinations. Not every vaccination is bad, like not every person in government is bad. But I think that doing your own individual research and kind of thinking for yourself instead of letting, the media, who is, we can all agree the media is controlled. I don't think that's a theory anymore. I think it's facts. You could look into the 5 families that control, Sinclair soldiers. You guys ever heard of that? Media is controlled. So if you're getting your information strictly from the media, you're kind of screwing yourself over because you're going to be uninformed.
So I want to track this way back. So I did some research on what's like happening in China. I was just like, that's what I was doing. I was doing some research. So the bill that they're passing, just to make this clear, is, so what I understood from the 3 articles that I read was that Hong Kong is seen as, can be like a safe haven in China because of China's like wrong judicial rules and stuff like that, like their terrible legislation system and stuff like that, unfair punishment, things like that. So Hong Kong is separate from China. So what the bill is saying is Hong Kong wants to sign an extradition bill, which would allow Hong Kong to extradite people to other countries to be put under their rule. So it started with a case in Taiwan of the suspected husband. I think the suspected guy murdered his girlfriend and his daughter in Taiwan. Then he went back to his hometown in Hong Kong, and Hong Kong is a safe haven, so they only have extradition with a few countries, and Taiwan is not one of them. So the bill was, they wanted to pass the bill so that they could extradite people who did said crimes, things like that, to other countries. And then the rise in the problem, the reason for the striking and like the protest is because the people, there's like this case, this guy who was running a bookstore in China was like the Chinese government was going after him because had said to have like been selling like illegal books and stuff. So he's now living in Hong Kong at the time, and China could not, like mainland China could not get him. And so the reason people are upset is because of the problems that the China judiciary system has with unfair and unreasonable punishment and like unfair rules and like reasons to be punished just based on like their strict government and things like that. So that people go to Hong Kong for a safe haven to be away from the Chinese government, but yet now Hong Kong is wants to pass this bill so that Hong Kong would no longer be a safe haven, so that Hong Kong can now extradite the people, like the people who committed these crimes and stuff like that, to China to be put under the judiciary system of China and these other ruling countries. So people are upset because of China's strict rules that they may have broken, so they flood to Hong Kong, and now they would be able to be sent out of Hong Kong into China to have to deal with the court system of China.
Why don't they just? Holy shit! Are they protesting to become a new country?
No, they what it said is like 2 countries under one system or something like that, or
so
two.
Why don't they just? Are there 2 governmental systems?
Yeah, so Hong Kong and China have like completely different like rules and like systems of.
So is Hong Kong like a territory, or are they a separate country?
I think it's like a territory of China.
Okay.
So they have their own judiciary system and things like that. That in sense, people are outraged because they don't want to be extradited to China for example, selling illegal books at a bookstore. Talking about the Chinese government and things, because it's like they have the Chinese government obviously has not done a lot of very good things. So if people are selling books and putting propaganda out against the Chinese government doesn't want that. They're almost communist controlled, so they control the media, they control the things that are going out, and if things like that are going out, the Chinese government does not want that. So then they put them under their judiciary system, and it's kind of fucked. Like torture and shit like that is happening. So people flee to Hong Kong to be a safe haven, to be rid of these unfair laws, I guess. So that's
imagine just like being in that situation. Like we're thankful, like we're blessed and we're thankful that we aren't like Like, our country doesn't torture. Our country doesn't, like... Well, I mean, doesn't torture the common people when they put them in prison.
Yeah, not someone selling some books.
Yeah, like, that shit's so fucked. Like, I can't even imagine myself, like, in that situation. That's just so, like, unhuman, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt.
It's because...
I think Go ahead.
It's all just because, like, it's almost all of these countries and stuff, like a lot of countries are moving towards more control. Like Hunter said, 5 media corporations control all of the media. So they want to be in control of what's putting out, because I don't know the exact quote, but it's like, he who controls the media controls the mind of the people, something like that. So like, if they can control the media, they can control what's being put into people's brains, what information people are receiving. So if people are receiving fake news and the 5 media corporations are putting out this information and stuff, and then they're controlling, that means they kind of have mind control, and they control the thoughts of people. Like there's literally a Netflix documentary about how they basically rigged the election, not like how they rigged the voting system, but how like just social media and what they can do with algorithms and things like that can sway people to voting one way or another just based on the information that they're receiving. You know, like when you type into Google something, it's gonna provide more information that's gonna like lead you to lean towards Trump or lean towards Hillary or lean towards somebody, you know. So they're just like, when you really understand the power of the media and how much it has an impact on the average person, you realize why controlling the media is so important, and that's why China is doing it. It's because they want to control the media. They want to create, basically they're creating a communist government and controlling the minds of people so that they think that the communist government may be good. Like they think good things about the government and things like that. They don't want any bad press, you know? So they only put out positive information and things like that, propaganda. So, and that's what's happening here in the United States. It's just not, people just don't even know it, but it's like, it's actually happening. Like it's the same thing, but it's just here. It's not like
we have an illusion of a little more freedom.
Yep. I bet North Korea is just sitting back and laughing at all this fucking shit.
Yeah.
They're like, oh wow, like, look, fucking changed. Screw you. That's why you don't have change.
Dude,
this is why we're hated by the whole world.
Communism, in theory, perfect situation, works, everything works, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. So if you give absolute power to someone, it's just going to corrupt. Like they're just going to go and take that power and run with it and go somewhere with it and manipulate the people for their own positive gain. But if everybody was in on the equal rights, like everybody is the same level, nobody else is benefiting anymore, which is communal agreement, it works perfectly. And I really think of like this ideal scenario. I mean, Rain was telling me about some movie, some YouTube video that I should watch about this. But I think of it like, if you think about like way back to like the natives and like what we learned about them, how they lived life, basically like living off the land. Everybody in the village provides for each other. Like there's people who hunt, there's people who make art, there's people who make music, there's people like who do all of these things that fulfill the needs for society. That if you could create a structure, a system that would work like that, that's the ideal life. That's how we're supposed to live. In my opinion, that's how we're supposed to live. Like living and loving the land, receiving benefit from the land, and we're all just living cohesively. Nobody's gaining more. We're just all here for the human experience, understanding how to make decisions.
That's in a perfect world, though.
Yeah, and that's
with no power system, with no political stance, with everyone agreeing with each other. That's in a 100% ideal utopian world.
Exactly, and that's kind of how they had it way back in like with the natives. Like they had some kind of power structure, some kind of leadership, but everybody sort of like agreed on the same thing. Like they were like, yeah, we trust the chief that he's gonna make all decisions in times of war, in times of things like that. Like we're gonna understand like, okay, he's the man who's gonna make the decisions. We believe in that, and they created a power system. I don't know how their power system was created. I think it was by birth, by family. but like it wasn't by like voting. It wasn't by like splitting the people one against each other. You know, it was like communal decision that this person, or they went through like a rite of passage or like something like that to now be the next chief leader in whatever case, you know. So like in the ideal world, but like the thing is, our world has become so industrialized that's gonna like almost nearly impossible to achieve in like our current state. But if you take it back, if you destroy all the buildings, we go all back to nature, where we're living in basically like man-made houses and things like that, and we're all just helping each other, living off the land, and the land provides everything we need, and we're just spiritual beings. Like if you like, when I was in the Amazon, and I was learning about like different Amazon tribes, and they were talking about like you would get married and you would do ayahuasca, like basically, like he didn't say ayahuasca, but he was like saying magical drinks basically that like would give you like awakenings and things like that you would go through, like these rituals, basically just experiencing the land and like everything that the world has to provide for you, and like using plants as medicine and all of these things, because everything we have is plant based, like all derived from like some kind of plant, you know. So it's like if we went back to that, that's all we need, you know. We don't need pharmaceuticals, like we don't need to fucking travel. Like we shouldn't have the need to travel because everywhere is the same, you know. I believe that the entire reason we're on this planet is just to exist and experience the life and experience like what the human experience is, and it's developed into something that wasn't what it was in the beginning, you know. So it's kind of a very miscued idea.
Well, I completely agree with you on I completely agree with you with everything. But I like, when you look back at the Native American spirituality was the kind of religion. They lived off the land, so they understood that the land was rich and that the land will always provide for them when they need to provide it, as long as they're in sync with Mother Earth, with the universe, with, you know, the spirits and the energies that are constantly around them. And like with shamans or like chiefs or whatnot, I think that, I don't know, like you said, you don't know how like every single one of them work, but I do know that there's a tribe in the Himalayas. If you guys know what Wim Hof is, there's a tribe in the Himalayas who, I don't remember what they're called, but that's where he learned it. And it's called Tumo. And this is connected to what Brady was saying. In Tumo, they would take, you know, whoever the candidates are, the people that they think are in, you know, they're going to compete against each other for the shaman spot, you know, to be the head guy. And what they do is they go sit out in the Himalayas in the middle of the night when it's, you know, freezing ass cold, and then they put wet blankets on them, and then they do this breathing exercise, and whoever can heat the most blankets is the next shaman. And you can look this up. This is factual. This is literally where the Wim Hof breathing technique came from, and it is absolutely insane. But going back to what Brady said, we came from a tribal, you know, we didn't have pharmaceuticals, we didn't have giant buildings, we didn't have all this industrialization. And, you know, why did it all start? Who knows? But when people are like, oh, well, there are people dying back in the day, you know, at age 30, 40. I mean, yeah, but you go way back to ancient times before buildings, anything. When it was just strictly, you know, like people just like caveman times, or like ancient Egypt, or anything like that. The gods were their leaders, and they all worked in a communal sense. They all worked together. And it's like, I mean, I'm sorry, I completely lost track of where I was going, because I just had my screen just tweaked the hell out. But overall, what I was ultimately getting at was the fact that, you know, we were put on this planet for a reason. We saw how bad industrialization got, and I think a lot of people are starting to reconnect with the true human self that we used to be. You know, the real, like the humans that we're the same species, but we're reconnecting with our primal sense, with who we actually are. We're supposed to just experience life. We're not supposed to wake up in the morning, take 5 different pills so that our brain can operate the way that the government wants our brain to operate so we can go show up to work and do the same shit for 40, 50 years, then retire and just sit around and on our ass because we worked enough to get, money, because now retirement for people our age is really kind of unattainable. And even if it is attainable, we only get to be retired for like not even a decade. So in my eyes, that's not the bomb. But I think that there is also a great awakening happening in the spiritual sense. You see a lot of people are starting to meditate. They're starting to do yoga, very little things. Even the psychedelic movement is even getting bigger and bigger. There's even more research now. It's becoming, it's decriminalized in Colorado right now. Psychedelic research they're going crazy. They're using psilocybin, which is mushrooms, MDMA, and all these like ayahuasca too. They're using it for pre-death anxiety. So before someone like dies, oh my God, I'm gonna freaking die, like I'm dying, what the heck, like, let's say a cancer patient or someone who's older is dying, they've been testing it out, and they've been, give them some shrooms or give them some MDMA, and they realize, holy shit, there's so much more to life than just what it is, than just my little reality tunnel that I live in. There's a huge network that's connected to all of us. So it kind of eases that pain. And going back, a little bit to what we were talking about, I think that there's a reason that we're on this planet, and that every single thing that is happening right now is happening because the system was created, and when it was created, it worked. During the Industrial Revolution, it worked. Things were getting faster, and capitalism kind of started to really take its reins, and things were working out for people. But nowadays, things just are not working out. And I think right now what we're witnessing is the downfall of the system or the man, the downfall of what we've been raised to know, what our parents have come to know, what our grandparents have come to know. I firmly believe that, in 10, 20 years, we're going to be, the society as a whole is going to be in a completely different place, because that is just a pattern. 10 years ago, society was in a completely different place than it is now. In another 10 years, we're going to be in an even different place, and then 20, 30, etc. So I think that we are definitely, times are going to become more modern, but if you notice, even more modern cities are kind of going back to nature. It's not so many buildings and stuff, but it's more so like, it is buildings, but it's kind of like areas with, it's like buildings with like modern designs. Will have like some grass on it, solar panels, and they're using the energy of the earth instead of just, using whatever man-made. And I don't know the shit behind it. But you look at really modern cities, and you're going to notice that nature has some type of it looks a lot more like nature-y than it does look like a city. When we were in Dallas, it was like a city. Like it was like buildings and freeways and concrete and metal. And then you look at like places in Amsterdam, and it's like, it feels like the buildings are just a part of nature. And I think that that's definitely, like, moving forward, we're not going to be able to go back to a place where we just take down all the buildings and take everything down, screw it all. But I do think that moving forward, we're going to live in kind of a, I wouldn't say a utopia would be ideal, but I don't know if a utopia could even exist. But it's going to be I think that society, look at all the people who are in power right now. They're all old. They're making rules on shit that they don't even use. Like, I don't know if anyone saw this last year, but the trial that the guy who the CEO of Google had to go on trial, and all the people on the committee, or what is it called, the court or the committee?
Yeah.
I don't know. They were questioning him, and they had no idea how Google worked. They had absolutely no clue.
Oh,
but those are the same people. Yeah,
they were so fucking clueless with everything.
They had no fucking idea. Think about it. If your grandparents were making rules on how you use technology, and rules and regulations that directly affected you, it's just a matter of, we just gotta wait. This sounds so bad, but we just gotta wait for those generations to die out realistically, because our generations are realizing the mistakes of the past, and are like, this is really messed up. Things really aren't good right now. Like, things just are not happening the way they should be happening. This is not how humans should be living. So that's sorry, I kind of went off on there.
That was good.
Dude, you brought up a lot of good stuff.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah. What I want to, right now, like what you were saying brought up a lot of ideas in my head. Like right now, we're kind of living in the age of information. Like there's information overload. Like there's so much happening, like so much information, so many notifications, everything like that's going everywhere. So right now we're in the age of information, but I think as we move forward, we're going to move to an age of like simplicity, like simple designs, simple things, simple painting, simple art, simple photography. Simple things is going to be the next move, you know? So I think we're shifting from an age of information, an age of information overload, where there's like, you can just see it even in the design of things. Like the design of buildings is now very simplistic. It's very clean. It's very fresh. Like the design of like graphic designs and artwork and information, like all this stuff is very simplistic, and that's what's pleasing. You know, when there's a lot of things, it's like that's just ugly. But like now you see something that's like just very simplistic, very few things on it. It's like that's crisp, that's clean, that's like that looks really nice. So I think we're moving into an age of more simplistic ideas, simplistic things happening. And we're in inclusion with that, we're in a growing movement of consciousness. Like consciousness is just an ever-warming, ever-growing idea. And when you really look back at it, okay, so when was it? When were the hippies? Like the 60s? The 60s was the hippies?
I think
correct?
60s, 70s, 70s. I want to say 70s.
60s and the 70s, I think?
Yeah.
Okay, so the 60s and the 70s, there's this wave of hippies, a wave of one love, like all of this stuff. Then what happens? What happens in the 80s? Then I believe we entered in some wars, some things like that.
Vietnam War.
When was Vietnam? Was that in the 80s or the 70s?
Yeah, that had to be the Vietnam War. Yeah, that would be right. The Vietnam War happens. So what does that do? That puts the people in a state of fear. That creates fear forever. Like
shit, we were so far off.
When
Vietnam War started in 1955 and went to 1975.
So when was the hippies?
The hippies were in the 70s.
The Vietnam War?
So the hippies came after the Vietnam War. What happened after?
No, they didn't.
I thought you said they came in the 70s.
75 is when the Vietnam War ended.
And then the hippies started in the 70s. So that means like at the end of the
1960s.
So the 60s. So so there was a movement of during the Vietnam War. There was a movement of hippies. So let's look what happened in what happened in the 80s and the 90s. Because I think there's going to be some correlation between massive governmental like control, basically. What? I look up 80s timeline, June 9th. Richard Pryor sets himself on fire while freebasing cocaine.
I just heard Ethan laugh.
Richard Pryor's a savage.
While we have this little intermission section, while we're looking up things to support what we're saying, on Instagram, you can follow all of us. We're gonna start posting so when we have sessions like this, we're gonna start posting questions, or like spots to put questions for us to talk about. So we're not just kind of rambling on about stuff that I don't know. It has value. Shows our point of view, but maybe some people aren't completely intrigued. So, because like viewer interaction is huge with us. We want to get everyone involved with this because we feel like you got to be intrigued. We've all been on those calls. We've all been on those calls where talking about a topic you don't want to listen. You don't want to listen. It's just not interesting. Like in school, you're taking a class in college, for example, you have to be there because it's gen ed, so you do it just to get a C, So, we'll post our Instagrams and everything, our personal Instagrams. Make sure you stay tuned on those. Ask those questions. Did you find it, Brady?
So, 1 sec. Give me 2 seconds. So, okay, so it's saying here that the Vietnam War, so the Vietnam War started in the 1960s and the 1975. And that's the same time in which the movement of the hippies happened. The 1960s. So they both started in the 1960s. And I don't know, that kind of seems very suspicious to me. That like when the movement of the hippies is beginning, so is the Vietnam War.
Well, it was their main stance was anti-war.
Yeah.
So I feel like if anything, that was like it was a resistance. Like that's the protest, you know.
Yeah, and then so I think they continue to go into that war, and they forced like the U.S. did not do well in that war. Like we all know.
There was a draft, wasn't there?
Yes, there was.
There was a draft, and there was. It was basically like the two forces, love against hate, like going at it, and hate.
That's in the continental U.S.
Yeah. In the U.S. there was a war on love versus hate. So I mean, basically, like that would just make sense to me that like they're pushing some kind of agenda to what is it called? Suppress the movement of hippies, and then they come back from the war. Now what do? They implement a lot of laws, and they implement a lot of control on people. And I think now it's just a wave of that starting again. Like the wave of the hippies and the movement of consciousness and love has been in a shift, like gaining momentum. So that now it's just going to be bigger than in the 60s, you know? Like it's creating a movement post hippies where we were suppressed, and now we're moving forward, and now we're going into
hipsters.
The hipsters, the hippies, like it's all happening, and I think it's just going to be a bigger movement, and it's going to create it's working towards everything we were just talking about, which is the community of love and living off the land, basically.
Well, yeah, I completely 100% agree with everything that you're saying. Like, look at the generational impact that it has. So our parents were around. Well, maybe our parents weren't around, but their parents were around during the hippies. Now, not everyone was a hippie, but there were people that started promoting the idea that we are all one. You know, we love each other and everything, which is awesome. Then the kids start to learn. So you can always tell that they're kids. You know, some kids are raised one way, some kids are raised the other. Some kids are completely cut off from society in the sense that, you know, they're rich as hell. They have everything paid for them. They don't have to worry about a single goddamn thing in the world. They don't know what they don't know because they don't care, because why does it affect them? Like, you know, which is fair. And then you have other people who, you know, their parents were raised during the hippie movement, whatever. But then you look at the people now, like look at people our age with what we know, with all the impact, cultural conditioning, all the things that have happened to us. How are our kids going to be raised? And I firmly believe, as much as people want to lose faith in humanity because it's a lot easier to do that, I think that to have an optimistic view on humanity is the only way that we can move forward. Because you're just being a little lazy if you're just like, humans suck. We're all going to die. The earth is going to fucking die. We're all dead. We all suck. Humans are cancer. No, they're not. Humans are incredible. We literally are the top of the food chain. We are the best species on this planet. We are the strongest, smartest species on this planet, because I don't see any freaking bears building any buildings. I don't see any bears getting in a car and driving a motor vehicle. I don't see any bears traveling all across the world. Humans have the capacity to do some super crazy things. Our bodies are literally the most well-designed machine that could possibly be made in this universe. But people are so quick to say that they gave up in humanity because the system that we're raised in is really, you know, kind of messed up. So I always look at it as focus on what you can do now, retain all the information. But the only way, the man who truly understands life is the man who plants a seed that he knows he will never bear the fruit. So you plant the seed in the younger generations that, you know, you raise them in a healthy environment. You learn from your past mistakes instead of being like, this is how my parents raised me, so I'm going to raise you this way. Like, that's not, what are you doing? You're passing down trauma and conditioning from your, like, from way back down to your kids. Your kids are humans. They don't know what the hell's going on. They literally are just showed up. They have no clue I mean, maybe they do, past life type shit. But when kids are whatever. So when kids are kids, they have no ability to discern what's right and what's wrong. That's their conditioning. That's how they're raised. Jared, that's why you operate the way you operate and I operate the way I operate, because my parents raised me in a specific way. And that's one thing I'm really proud of my parents, is they said that the way, their parents raised them. My mom grew up on a farm. She's like, I'm not going to treat you the way my parents treated me, because I don't want you to go through that. That's awesome. I think that's the mindset that parents should have, is this is not my kid. This is a human being first, and then my kid second. Because I need to make sure that this kid is a functioning human being in society, not a piece of shit.
But I love, like, my parents really did this with me as well. Like, letting me develop my own mindset and, like, my own ideas and my own consciousness almost. Letting me develop my own, like, frame of looking at things. It was either them letting me or me having to figure it out on my own. Granted, I was conditioned, like, in a different aspect when it came to like competitiveness and everything, like with sports and like what I was brought up in.
Yeah.
But like changing, like once sports 2 years ago left my life, it switched. So like along those lines of like our parents raising us, how we're like, I don't know how to word this, but like our parents kind of forming our initial mindset.
Conditioning.
I kind of wanted to use a different word.
Conditioning is so bad, but it's true. Like, you can have positive conditioning. Like, my parents raised me with affirmations because they both ran a business and they understood the power of affirmations. They like that. You can ask my little brother and my older brother. They just like, they'd always say, you're destined for greatness. Like just instill that in your kid's head. You don't know where the hell your kid's going, but as long as you raise them to make sure that they're, like, good kids, they're good operating human beings, teach them basic mannerisms and basic respect. Like, hey, like, care about other people, don't be an asshole, kind of realize that everyone has the right to live and be a human and to, be happy, and you shouldn't really kind of fuck with that. I think that's it's super basic too. It's super sad that that's something that's like really, like, you look at some people and it's like, it's not the kids so much as the parents, where you're just sitting there and you're just like, damn, like, I can't imagine the impact that you're having on that child that's so negative. And it's like, you shouldn't be judging them, but you just see how things are operating. I saw a video. This is really, like, it disturbed me. Like, it made me really, really sad. It was a video of these two parents that were just, like, they were on heroin, meth, something, and they were on a bus, and they're just all, like, the mom is, like, just out. The dad is all out of whack. He's trying to stay upright, and the kid's like, Mom, Dad, stay up. Like, wake up. Like, he was, like, yelling at them. And it's just like, it's like, damn, like, that really just sucks. There are parents out there that just really don't understand that there's so much more to life than them and their reality, which is, it's all unconscious. It's not like people are trying to be malicious. It's just all based on conditioning and the experiences that you had that shape your entire reality. And to me, it's just that's always my favorite, like, mind experiment. It's like, I like to look back and just look at different instances and just, like, pick apart my conditioning. And, when you meet other people, it's not a place of judgment. It's a place of, when they treat you like shit, it's not, dude, you're a dick. It's okay, what happened? Like, what made you trigger yourself into treating me like shit? Mm-hmm. What is it inside me that you don't like about you? Like, you can only love yourself as much as the person you hate the most. So the people you hate the most, chances are that's a part of yourself that you really just don't like. And what's up?
I was just saying facts and matters and that.
Thank you.
Facts. Big facts.
Big facts.
If you like look at, think about like a person you really like, you hate, you really just don't like, you despise, and think about what do you not like about them. Like what about them do you not like? What do they do? All these things. a lot of times you're going to realize that you do those same things. You just have to like put it into perspective. I know when I did that exercise, I was like, holy shit, that I just like it was like shifted my entire paradigm, you know. So nuggets about raising children. I think the best way to do it is no conditioning, hands off. Provide them their necessary idea, like the things that they need in life, like food, water, shelter, safe space. And just let them be who they want to be.
Let them operate, yeah.
I mean, we can only say so much because we're 20 years
kids.
Old. Yeah, we have.
Well, it's also something that people gotta take into consideration too. Is it's just like you gotta also come from a place of forgiveness for your parents. Like, nah, I'm not mom, dad. Like, I know you guys watch these, so like you guys are chill. You're doing awesome. Like, keep up the good work. But it's just like some things that I listened to this one podcast where he's like, I hated my parents. Truly hated them, but then at the same time they were younger than me when they had me. So your parents were literally just like, imagine you being like, let's say your parents had you at like 20 years old. They're still figuring their life out, and now not to mention they're trying to figure themselves out, not to mention they have to take care of another human being. So it's a matter of like they were trying their absolute best, and that's something that also you just need to keep in mind on a whole level of perspective with every single human being you come into contact with. They're trying their absolute best to be happy, and anything that is put onto you, anything that you end up being the receiving end of, is always just a reflection of them onto you, just them pouring whatever it is that is going on internally onto you. And 99% of the time, the things that people say to you that are just really fucking mean, totally talking to themselves there. And it's like that's something I'm still kind of mind fucked over, but we can save that for a later podcast, probably with a couple of these new guests that we got coming up, because I'm super stoked for that.
It's gonna be straight.
So with that, I think it's a good time to wrap it up. I'm getting a super bad headache right now, no idea why, but I mean, I love this conversation. This is a fun one.
It's always good conversation.
It's always fun.
But yeah, next week, for the people that are on here, we have 3 people in the Twitch chat. That's right. Who fucking cares? People.
Hey, shout out to those 3 people.
Yeah,
bro.
we provide value. We provide our insight. Next week it'll actually be a special first time in QCast history. We will all be in one room, live. It's gonna be great. I'm going to be down in Milwaukee with these boys. On Sunday, we're having the episode because I got school. Monday is class time. So, next week, this coming weekend, Sunday, QCast. What time are we doing it?
Probably like 10 would have to be.
10 a.m.?
Well, I mean, we could do a morning cast.
1 second.
I mean, Sunday. Who's got shit going on Sunday other than church for the religious folk?
Yeah, I mean, I'm down for a midday Sunday streaming.
All right. So yeah, Sunday in person. QCast. Always, we appreciate you guys coming out here. Also, one last shout. I want to push this more. Juggernaut Energy is great. They're treating us great. Use code QCast, QCAST, for 10% off at juggernautenergy.com. If you need a pick-me-up in the morning before you work out, or if you just need a pick-me-up and you don't want to drink any shit coffee, use some Juggernaut Energy.
Let me tell you, that shit gets you jazzed.
Jazzed as fuck. All right, well, I'm gonna bring it back to our faces. That's why
I have a headache. I'm having withdrawals, actually.
I'm gonna bring it back to our faces. We will send you guys off. We appreciate you guys coming out here. Truly appreciate it. I know we really didn't have anything in store. This might have been rambled or off the line. But yeah, we truly appreciate you guys coming out here. For me, that's all I got to say. Brady and Hunter, you guys got anything else to say?
Love you.
One love. See you guys.
All right, see you guys next week. Peace.